So over the last few days we've talked about the three aspects of the alchemical process and the three universal principles. How the three different aspects of the alchemical process, all necessary to trigger that alchemical transformation, are the first aspect being the right use of will, which is about applying constant pressure through the correct use of will to reveal untruth and unravel untruth and reveal the truth of source within it. That's the path of enlightenment. The second aspect is the right use of love. It's also the path to oneness or union with source. And it's affected through the acknowledgements of source in all things and an attitude of gratitude for the benevolence of the universe. And in opening to the love of the universe, we achieve a certain amount of union with source. The more we allow it, the more we achieve that. And the third aspect being the right use of intelligence, which is about the path to service, and the path to knowing, which is about studying and understanding the rules of the universe, the mysteries of the universe, approaching it from a space of humility and desire for selfless service. And we've also talked about the three universal principles, which are ways of living which mirror the way that the universe works on higher levels and then attunes you to source reality, which is what we seek to live in all the time. The first principle being practicing gratitude, appreciation and humility in all moments, no matter what you're experiencing. The second principle being practicing the holy encounter, perceiving source in all things, knowing that the source within you is the same as the source within all. And the third principle being the nurturance of all life, which is about being and using your energy in a way that nurtures all life towards its highest potential and the expression of its highest potential as parts of source evolving. And today we are going to look at how the first aspect of the alchemical process really works hand in hand with the first universal principle, the second aspect of the alchemical process hand in hand with the second universal principle, and the third aspect with the third principle, and how working with these tools, working with these aspects of the process will help you deal with issues of abandonment, rejection, and betrayal. Now I can guarantee that everyone here has issues around that, sometimes more one than the other, sometimes all of them. As part of your journey in this life, as part of your journey in other lives, you are expected to have experienced a certain amount of abandonment or rejection or betrayal or all of the above. And the more you hang on to these issues, the more you tend to manifest them over and over again, because you start to believe and expect these experiences of abandonment, rejection, and betrayal. Really, when you look at it, most victim consciousness that we get stuck in and bogged in boils down to issues around rejection, betrayal, and abandonment. All of these make up a lot of the victim consciousness that we struggle with. So if we look at issues of abandonment, now if you have issues around abandonment, it tends to cause you to have issues with trust. If you have abandonment issues, you have a reluctance to trust or an inability to trust. This gets in the way of the correct use of will, which is the first aspect of the process. When you have issues around trust and abandonment, you live in that constant state of anxiety, expecting yourself to be abandoned for whatever reason, and constantly not being able to be fully in the present moment, fully able to give yourself to the moment and to whoever it is that's involved in this moment with you, to trust the moment, to trust yourself, to trust the universe, and to trust the other person enough to really embrace the experience, participate fully without holding anything back, without being guarded. But instead you're so, that's often unconscious, but you're so caught up in that fear of being abandoned and expecting the experience of abandonment and not being able to trust anything or anyone, not including yourself. You tend to then have that underlying anxiety, always expecting what's going to come next. And that prevents you from really appreciating the moment and being in the moment. And that prevents you from really revealing the source that is in this moment, to really experience spirit in this moment, and to really be grateful for these moments. And really a real key to the correct use of will is gratitude, appreciation, humility. Gratitude is a huge key to the correct use of will. It's very important, because to really use will correctly, you need to be able to really partake of the moment, appreciate the moment, be grateful for whatever the experience is in the moment, in order to reveal the gift underneath, the gift of source underneath. And to use your will in a way where you're really present in the here and now, and no matter what happens, it's an experience that you use to take more life in, turn it into love, and reveal more source from underneath the layers of whatever the gift is wrapped in. So really staying in the moment, because we're not worried about what's going to come next, and really making the most of this moment and taking it all in constantly to move step by step forward towards revealing more source within all aspects of yourself and all aspects of your experience. So that's really the key to deal with issues of abandonment. What happens when we have trust issues, we tend to then also misplace our trust. And then we keep manifesting this cycle of abandonment. Because deep within, we hang on to this feeling of being abandoned. We believe that this is what's to be expected and what's going to keep coming. And we start then putting our energy out in a way which is going to keep making happening. And for that, because we don't trust the people that are actually going to be trustworthy, because we expect abandonment. So obviously we're not going to really want to trust people who are going to stick by us, because that challenges our reality around, I'm going to be abandoned. No matter what, people are going to leave me, they're going to leave me behind, I'm just going to end up alone, all of that. And so we tend to start then placing our trust as a way of sabotaging our chance to break that cycle of abandonment, placing our trust in people that are going to leave us behind, that are going to walk away from us, that are not going to be there for us. So if you find yourself experiencing that over and over again, in some way or another, whether it's friends that leave you, or partners, or you find yourself being left behind, or you have that fear of being left behind all the time, you have abandonment issues. And that keeps happening because you are living in a way where you're hanging on to these issues that you have around abandonment, and you keep placing your trust where it should not be placed. Or sometimes what happens as well is you are actually in a good relationship, let's say with someone who loves you and wants to stand by you. But when that's the case, then you act and behave in a way, you get triggered into all your issues around abandonment. Well, I know you're going to abandon me, so if you're giving me no signs of abandoning, I start to act and behave in a way that's going to push you away, that's going to force you to then want to leave me. And, you know, we've seen that a lot in relationship. I know I've done it, where I start to expect that the other person's going to leave, so I start to behave in a way that's, first of all, a bit paranoid, let's face it, and then I start to really close myself up and push them away. You know, well, you're going to leave me anyway, because that's what happens all the time, so I'm just going to push you away, and you become sometimes unlivable or unpleasant or very controlling. And we know that when somebody in a relationship is really clingy or needy or controlling, all it does is push the other person away. And this is what we do when we have this inability to trust, and we just expect abandonment. And the thing is that when we have an inability to trust, we kind of curl up on ourselves. We close down. We just become introverted in a way. We guard that part of us that we don't want anyone to touch or see or be able to get close to, because they're going to leave. So there's no way I'm going to let you come this close. And when we do that and we come into this introversion, we can't express the correct use of will. We can't. Will is all about moving forward, evolving towards source realization, revealing the source within all things, embracing the moment to co-create, to move forward, that movement. It's a very transmitting kind of attitude and stance and energy. And when we have this fear of trust and expecting abandonment, to some degree we're just closing in on ourselves. So the key with that, correct use of will, we talked about that, and on the video, people who are watching the video will have to go and watch the video on the 3 universal principles to get more information about that. The correct use of will and the practice of the first universal principle with gratitude, appreciation, and humility, that's the key to breaking through issues around abandonment. Now, rejection issues. Rejection, when somebody actually rejects you and pushes you away and goes, that's it, I don't want you. Or, even when you apply for a job and they say, well, no, sorry, we picked someone else, we don't want you. That rejection, that can be so hurtful to the heart. And the worst rejection of it all is self-rejection. Now, what rejection does is affect your ability to practice the correct use of love. Because rejection causes you to feel unworthy, not good enough, not lovable. And when you have that, there's no way that you can really effectively practice the second aspect of the process, which is the correct use of love, which is about allowing yourself to be loved by all of life, by the universe, no matter how it presents, whether it's someone else or it's just the love that's all around. And of course, we always have our boundaries in place, and conditional love and above only is what we accept. And unfortunately, often when we get rejected by someone else or something else, we have that hurt of the rejection that makes us feel less than, not good enough. And then on top of this, we often, not always, but often then tend to judge ourselves for it. See, you didn't do good enough, you're not good enough, you're not lovable. So on top of the rejection that we experience from outside of ourselves, seemingly outside of ourselves, we also then practice that self-rejection on top of it, where we will also just stab ourselves in the heart on top of it all to try to punish ourselves for not being good enough for this other person or for this job or this opportunity that rejected us. And then from that place of woundedness, not feeling good enough, not feeling worthy enough, we tend to then chase the experience of wanting someone or something to prove to us that we are good enough. And so, if it is like an old lover that rejected you, then you want to, it's that whole thing that you see a lot in movies, and it does happen in real life, that trying to make them jealous, trying to make them feel sorry for rejecting you, trying to make them want you again. Because they rejected you, so if then they want you again, you're kind of hoping that will cancel out the wounding, but it doesn't. That's two wrongs not making a right. It doesn't work that way. The thing is, like, once you've cut yourself or stabbed yourself, you can't undo that. It's done. What you can do is heal, and there'll be a scar. That doesn't matter, it's just part of the wonderful marks on the slate that give a testimony to the uniqueness of your journey, but it doesn't hurt, it doesn't do anything bad, it's just a little scar. So you can heal what happened, but you cannot undo it. And unfortunately, when we have these issues of rejection, we're constantly seeking for a way to undo that wound of rejection, and it just doesn't work that way. The key to dealing with issues of rejection, well, first of all, is stopping rejecting yourself and to stop rejecting those parts of you that you considered to be not good enough so that you were rejected. That's the first thing. Because if you're trying to heal issues of rejection while you're still attacking and rejecting those parts of you that you consider to be not good enough, it's not going to work. So the first thing you need to do is stop rejecting yourself. And then all of it really, whether it's your self-rejection or the hurts from rejection from outside of yourself, is the key to healing that is through the second principle and the correct use of love. The second principle is about the holy encounter, perceiving the source within all things is the same as the source within me. And that source is of love. It's a source of love. Therefore, I have love within me. Love is all around me, and there is no separation. You allow yourself to be part of the love that is always there. And you have to allow yourself to receive that love and as you receive this love and you practice this love and you keep being devoted to that love, you will allow yourself to realize that you are good enough, that you are lovable, that you are worthy. And that's the ultimate truth of it. You are worthy. But you don't allow the love in the way that you actually deserve. And so the application of the second aspects of the process and the second principle of the holy encounter is the real key to dealing with issues of rejection. And of course, it's the same thing. When we expect rejection, we'll keep manifesting it. It's all the same, rejection, abandonment, or betrayal. If you hold on to those issues, you're just going to keep manifesting it, because it's also not only because you're putting energy out expecting it, so you're kind of in some ways praying for it. Even by worrying about it, you're praying for it. I've often said worrying is a way to pray for what you don't want. It's just putting a lot of energy into making something happen that you're really scared might happen. And of course, the more you do that, the more it's going to happen. And so the same with rejection. When, it happens, oh, well, see, told you. I'm bound to be rejected. I'm just not good enough. And because I'm not good enough, because I'm not worthy, of course, no one's going to want me. If they think they want me now, it's because they can't really see the real me. But once they see the real me, they'll reject me because I'm not worthy, I'm not lovable, I'm not good enough. And so what we do is we try to hide those parts of us that we feel are not worthy, not good enough, because we don't want anyone else to see those parts of us, because if they do, they'll reject us. And these are often aspects of this that we bury very deeply and that we really guard. So if you feel anything within yourself that's really guarded, really protected, like trying to hide it from everyone so no one can see it, there'll most probably be issues around rejection, because it's this unworthiness, not feeling good enough, that you don't want anyone to see, because if they do, they'll reject you. But of course, when you have that running, there's only so much love you can take until that starts to trigger and disagree with receiving that love. So the same, what we'll do, you'll start to behave in a way that causes the other person to reject you. You'll start to behave like a bitch or like a bastard and be nasty, be attacking, to make the other person reject you, because see, now you can see the real me. I'm not good. I'm not good for you. I'm not good for anyone. That's the patterns that we tend to play out. That's rejection issues. Then there's betrayal. Issues around betrayal. Issues around betrayal, when we have those experiences and we cling to that, we judge that, we refuse to just let it go and move on. When we have those issues of betrayal, what it tends to do is cause us to feel that life's not fair, that it's not fair, that sense of injustice, that something was done to you that is not fair. It's like, oh, we were all going well, I thought you were my friend, and then you betrayed me. That's not fair. That's not fair. And we start to get stuck into that real victim, it's not fair stuff. And what that does is prevent us from being able to really commit in any kind of scope. In relationship, at work, to spirit, to ourselves. We just have that reluctance to commit because we expect betrayal. I'm not going to commit with this relationship when I expect that you're going to betray me. I'm not going to commit to spirit because I expect to be betrayed in some way or another. I'm not going to commit to anything. So we just become these kind of misers, emotional misers, love misers, spiritual misers, where we don't want to commit to anything. We just expect that nastiness, that betrayal. We just expect everyone to be Agent Smith and turn against us at any point. And when you're in that kind of state of being, what you're not doing is practicing the third aspect of the process and the third principle, which is the correct use of intelligence and the nurturance of all life. Because you're not extending yourself towards anything else. You're kind of like on the lookout for everything and expecting everything to be bad, to be nasty, to betray you, to do something bad by you, to be unfair to you. And when you live that way, first of all, the point from where you are living and your starting point for your whole attitude to life is faulty, because it comes from that point of the universe is not fair. It's not fair, life's not fair. And we know that that's not the case. We know that you get exactly what you deserve in life. And we know that the universe is benevolent and is trying to co-create with you in order to reveal the source within you and to empower the source within you and allow this source to come back into unity with the source of all life and to grow and express more of itself in nurture and give to all that is. But when you're coming from that place of it's not fair, life's not fair, and looking out for danger everywhere, you get it all wrong. There's no way that you can start to learn how the universe works and co-create with the universe, because you're starting from being against the universe. There's no way you can apply the correct use of intelligence from that point. Not even talking about the lack of gratitude and humility that is necessary for the success in that third aspect of the process. And obviously the third principle, the nurturance of all life, which is that desire to actually extend yourself towards all of life as you encounter it. You can't do that when you like, betrayal expected in every corner. Bad, life's not fair. It just can't happen. You need to have a certain amount of opening yourself up, trusting the universe, trusting the benevolence of the universe, having a go, and extending yourself towards life and working in conjunction and harmony with life. So the key to issues of betrayal is the correct use of intelligence and applying the third principle, which is the nurturance of all life, service to all that is. Stop trying to protect yourself from life and instead start to give to life. So these are the keys to dealing with those issues. Now, as you grow through the stages of human development or any sub-stage in your initiation process, you always go through a particular cycle of growth and development, which is always the same. And unfortunately, many of you get bogged down in some of these aspects of the cycle, which prevents you from really moving forward and letting go of stuff. Letting go is a huge part of the process, and that's a part that a lot of people have trouble with. It's like, I can refine it a bit, I can open my hand this much, but completely letting go, whoa, that's too scary, it's too radical, and then I have nothing left, or I'll end up alone, or what's going to happen if I completely let go? If I completely let go of my ego, if I completely let go of everything in my life, if I completely let go of fear. We're so reluctant to do that. We just do it halfway, or we just prefer refining so that we refine the ego, but we don't really want to just let go of the ego, the negative ego. So that's a huge part of the process. But coming back to these 5 stages of growth and development, within each stage and sub-stage of the process of growth that we're going, it's a bit like a fractal pattern, Each big stage of human development, and for more information on that, you can either watch the video on the stages of human development that Michael did, or the information in his book, Crystal Alchemy. The first stage being that physical development, the second stage, that whole emotional development, third stage mental, then the fourth is the whole soul merge, soul development, and then we move into more spiritual and source, unity with source, and so on and so forth. Whether it's these big stages of human development or sub-stages within that, the same cycle repeats, just on smaller scale or bigger scale. Anything that you're working through in terms of going through a particular stage of growth, whether it's a small one or a big one, will go through the same 5 elements every time, the same 5 phases. And the first one of those is self-empowerment. The second one is self-development. The third one is self-actualization. The fourth one is expansion of consciousness. And the fifth one is that practicing loving the self, yet being selfless, which is true humility. Every stage that you go through, you will go through all of these stages. Now, the first one being that self-empowerment. And we know that when we start to work on something new, a new stage in our learning, that next step in our process, it starts with that self-empowerment, where we got to really reinforce that self-determination and choose that, yes, I can do this, yes, I can embrace this, yes, I can take this next step. You know, it's that empower yourself to be able to start to step up into that next phase of the journey. Then the second one, that self-development, is where we start to learn lots of things and start to expand into new horizons and learn different things. Develop ourselves, develop new skills, new ability. Then we move into the self-actualization, where we start to really be differently, behave differently. We start to put all of that into practice. And as a result, our behavior is going to change, our life's going to change. Everything's going to really start to actualize on the ground in actual fact, in actuality. And then we go into the expansion of consciousness. That's where, from doing the first 3 phases of the process, we start to really have an expansion in our experience, where our consciousness expands, where we start to have a different experience. Through making a new choice and learning new ways and putting these new ways into practice, we are starting to be transformed. We are starting to have a different reality. And then the last step is that love the self yet be selfless, which is that true humility, which is so important, which is that balancing, where you absolutely need to be in a space of humility within the context of that particular stage that you're in, where you need to not overdo it or not underdo it, and not think that you're much further ahead or that you're much less, and not be too full of yourself within that, but not downplay either the gains that you've made and the new learning. It's being within a sense of being centered in that new phase that you've integrated and actualized, and really made it your own, and really accepted that where you're at within that. Now, in order to really complete that and to get that sense of humility, that last phase of loving the self yet being selfless and being in true humility with that particular step in your process, that particular stage, you need to have mastered and actualized all of the first 4 phases. The self-empowerment, self-development, self-actualization, and expansion of consciousness. And you need to have, to some degree, have a certain amount of humility and balance with all of these aspects. And only then can you really get that true humility of loving the self, yet being selfless at that particular level, and that real sense of humility and isness within that. Now, what can happen sometimes is that in the early stages of the process, when you're starting to just go into that new phase, and you're starting to do that self-empowerment, like, yeah, you know, I can choose to be worthy, and I'm going to embrace that a new level of worthiness and feeling capable or anything like that. And then when you don't stay within a state of humility and balance in that particular phase, and we've seen that often with people in work, especially when it has to do with worthiness issues, you can start to really get a bit full of yourself. That self-empowerment actually gets channeled into the ego rather than the heart. And then you start to kind of really take yourself a bit too seriously and not that really good. And then when it gets really out of balance, it becomes this kind of megalomania. So that first stage is when you start to step up. Just watch that. You know, you need to make a choice for yourself and empower your heart, empower yourself from the heart. But just be careful that you don't start to let that be channeled into your ego, and that you stepping up experience doesn't start to be made about how good you are and how special you are and how great you're growing and this and that, because you can feel it when you're starting to move into a new stage in your development. That first step's like, oh wow, I'm moving into new territory here. Yeah, I really feel like I'm taking a step up. But if you start to make that about little me and your ego, that self-empowerment phase will actually inflate your ego. And that prevents you from moving on to the subsequent stages in the development. But it also can create a lot of mess that you need to clean up before you can complete that particular stage. So that can really slow down your process. And for each stage, whether it's a sub-stage or the big stage of human development, to come to that last phase of loving the self, yet being selfless and being in that complete humility for that stage, there needs to be an enormous amount of letting go. Letting go of what you think you know, letting go of who you were, letting go of the old ways that you've done things. The same, you know, the expansion of unconsciousness, like, wow, my reality is really starting to change. But none of it can completely anchor and actualize if you don't let go of the old reality, if you don't let go of all the things that were before you learned the new way of doing it in this particular new stage of your development. So there's a huge amount of letting go that needs to be done. And there's a huge amount of embracing what simply is at that level of your growth. And a lot of you stay stuck on that final letting go. You know, you kind of like, yeah, I'm having realizations and wow, you know, I'm kind of practicing some things, even though not always as hard as I could. And yeah, you know, it's starting to make a bit of difference in my life, or I'm starting to notice that I'm being different, I'm living different, and wow, my reality is starting to change. Oh, yeah. But then that last phase, to come into that real space of humility, you're not really willing to let go completely. So you got to watch that and just let go, just trust. When you let go, it's not like you'll be just thrown with nothing on the floor and the universe is going to forget about you and shut you away. It's not like that. When you let go, you're making room for the new. But you got to be okay with that experience of emptiness and not knowing in between. You know, if you fight that and try to grasp at the new, it's not going to work. So this is all things to be aware of as you work through different things. So, abandonment, rejection, betrayal. We've got the key. Abandonment is the first aspect, the correct use of will, and the first principle with the gratitude, humility, and appreciation. For rejection issues, correct use of love, union with Source, and practicing the holy encounter. Source within me agrees, Source within you, it's all the same one Source, it's all made of love. For issues of betrayal, the third aspect, the correct use of intelligence and knowing, to allow yourself to actually partner with the universe, learn, accept her benevolence, and learn about how it all works, and just give back, extend yourself outside of yourself, and stop seeing the universe as an enemy. So the practice of the nurturance of all life, the third principle, and correct use of intelligence, that's the key. These principles are the key for each of these aspects of the process. And just know that whatever you're growing through, whatever phase you're growing through, you need to allow yourself to go through all of these different phases. Self-empowerment, self-development, self-actualization, expansion of consciousness, allow your reality to shift, and then finally, that final letting go and acceptance and letting yourself fall into place with that true humility, loving the self yet being selfless. So, to feel into those issues around abandonment, rejection, betrayal, we align and centered, and we stay very present, because one of our favorite ways to avoid those issues is to space out or start to go into the mind and think about it. These are some of the most painful issues around with that unworthiness and self-loathing and self-hate and all that. Some of the most painful issues that we can experience as human beings. And so we're very loath to go there, and usually when they trigger, either we squash it down or we just deal with the surface elements of it that got triggered in the moment, but we don't actually allow ourselves to really clear out the root cause of where we installed within us and anchored that sense of rejection will happen, abandonment will happen, betrayal will happen, and that place from within where we keep repeating that cycle over and over again. You know, and surely we're sick of it by now. And yet we keep doing it because we cowardly not going there, not really going to the depth of it. And it's always much worse in your head than it actually is when you go in there. Not that it doesn't feel deep and absolutely excruciating and all of that, but you know, the relief when you finally allow yourself to go there rather than just battle with it to keep it squashed down. You cannot move forward all the way on your path if you're trying to leave part of yourself behind. So move towards that place within you, whether you're most reluctant to go, that place that feels so hurt, so wounded, so vulnerable, so scared of love, so unworthy of love, that feel so unsafe in the world, constantly expecting to be betrayed, seeing the world, the universe as an enemy, seeing love as an enemy. That inability to trust, inability to commit, because that's what happens every time. They leave me every time. How can I trust anyone? Or they reject me every time because I'm unlovable, I'm worthy, I'm bad, I'm not good enough. Or they'll betray me because life's a bitch, life's not fair, nothing's fair, I hate life. I can't commit to anything, I can't do anything like that. I have to hide and stay hidden within myself because they will betray me. Just follow the energies and allow yourself to feel into that and just spend some time with that. Enough feelings, feeling all that pain, that agony, that fear, that self-contraction, that bitterness, that anger, rejection, abandonment, betrayal, inability to trust, inability to commit, feeling not good enough, worthless, doubting ourselves, blaming ourselves, hating ourselves, judging ourselves, judging the whole world. But we're still aligned and centered. We're not toppling into all this. We're expanding into it and holding a space for it and pouring the love into it. These abandonment issues, we're just applying the correct use of will and that gratitude as we run the process, the Cosmosis process, to transmute and let go. Let go of the pain, let go of the beliefs, let go of that rule, of that vow, that certainty that you installed within yourself. It's not the truth. Allow the wound to seep out all the pus, all these things that you've allowed to just get infected in there for so long through not feeling it, through pushing it away and not healing the wound. But you keep moving it through. And you just gotta let go. Let go of those feelings, let go of that certainty that you can expect abandonment, rejection or betrayal. It's not true, no matter how deep that runs and how much that part of you is committed to that or convinced of that. It doesn't matter how convinced you feel of that, it's not true. You'll make it true because you keep making it happen, but it doesn't have to be so. Allow that part of you to release all that, to set itself free of all that. Set yourself free of that prison of pain. Don't judge. There is nothing wrong with you. There is nothing wrong with those feelings, but there is nothing wrong with you and there is nothing wrong with what happened to you. It doesn't mean anything about you. It was just an experience you had and it felt as it felt. Once you stop judging that, you can allow things to move through. Don't make it mean anything. Pour the love in there. All these rejections issues, just allow the love to come in there. Receive the love in there with gratitude, knowing that you are worthy of this, you deserve it. To be grateful, to be in the present, to know that everything you experienced was exactly what you deserved and it was all a gift for your evolution, for your growth, no matter how it looked on the ground. Choose to focus on it with that right use of will, to perceive the source within, to shed away the layers of judgments and false identity and false beliefs, and reveal the gift of source within. Allow the love all the way into where it hurts. I am worthy. It is all a gift. Thank you. I know this. I am worthy. And then allowing yourself to also receive that love in those places that don't trust life, that don't trust the universe, that don't want to commit to anything, that see the world, the universe as an enemy. Maybe you're bitter or angry because of past betrayals. Life is fair. You got exactly what you deserved. Just shine into that desire to nurture life. You know, it's there, we all have it. If we stop blocking it or letting the hurt get in the way. That desire to extend ourselves, that desire to understand the mysteries of the universe, that desire to know the truth, to return home. To return home to love and to allow ourselves to open, to extend ourselves, to commit, to be part of something. That's your rechoosing. That's the energies you bring in. As you feel the feelings, allow, release any judgment, really be grateful, let go of the hurt. You gotta really let go. Let go of the past. Doesn't matter what's happened before. All that matters is what you do with your energy now. What do you manifest now? What do you choose to be about now? Allow those parts of you to be filled with love, filled with gratitude, filled with appreciation, filled with knowing, and filled with that desire for selfless service to all. That sets your heart on fire, allows you to want to be part of life again. And let go of all the rest, right from the root, right from the core, right deep from within your very, very soul. This is not who I really am. Some of it can be so deeply anchored and so familiar, it feels like it's you, but it's not you. It's part of your negative ego. Spirit knows no fear, knows no mistrust. Spirit is love. Spirit is life. Spirit is all embracing. Spirit is one. Spirit doesn't hang on or fight or push away or try to grasp. It's not the truth. If it's not about unconditional love and above, it's not the truth. If it's about fear, it's definitely not the truth. Not your truth as a spiritual being. It's just ego. Doesn't matter how real it seems. How real it feels, how right it seems. It's not. Are you really over it? Then go there, let it go. Make the new choices, apply the principles, correct use of will, correct use of love, correct use of intelligence, gratitude, appreciation, humility, source within all things, acknowledgement of source within all things, including in those experiences. Nurturance of all life, that natural urge. Spirit naturally wants to do that. If you don't feel that, it means you're not allowing spirit to be and express itself. You're getting in the road. You are not being spirit. You are not being who you really are. Nurture all life. That's the very nature of spirit. Spirit just does this naturally. That's just what it is. That's why the universe is benevolent, because naturally that's what the universe does. Allow that and let go of all that betrayal stuff, anything that stands in the way. Stop protecting it, stop guarding it, stop hanging on. I am. I am all that I am. I am no longer placing restrictions on that. I have experienced all that I have experienced, yet I am not all that I have experienced. I use my experience to grow, to learn, to find better ways to express who I really am, all that I am. All these wounds that have festered, we're going to keep working with that. We all have a certain amount of baggage around that. Just empty it out. Right to the very depth, right where the knife first went in. And then pull the knife out. Allow the wound to be cleansed and heal it by the application of these three principles. Realign that part of you that was so committed to abandonment, rejection, or betrayal. Realign that to be committed to divine will, to divine love, to spiritual intelligence. Let go, release. Empower the spirit within. Allow it to grow. Allow it to take its place in the driver's seat. To live differently as a result. For your reality to change as a result. And your experience to change as a result as you stop manifesting the same old things. Allow yourself to start anew. Clean slate. Letting go. Starting anew along these new principles, my commitment, the I am identification. It's not about being more or less. It's not about being selfish. It's not about making it all about others. It's just about allowing yourself to be as you really are. A long journey behind you that doesn't have to define you in any other way than you using it to learn even better ways to be. And a long journey ahead of you where you're going to learn better ways. And when you turn back in 100 years, 500 years, you're going to look back here and go, geez, I've come a long way. Geez, the way I was then, wow, ooh, a bit scary. That's where you are now. Just like where you were at 500 years before now, was where you were at. You can't expect yourself to behave like someone at this level now when you were several steps behind back then. This is where I'm at now. There is no perfection to get to. There's only exploration and experience of life. I don't have to hang on to anything. Life keeps happening. I don't have to hang on to life. Life is always happening. All I have to do is be with it in the moment. Feel as it feels. Apply the three principles and apply the correct use of will, of love, and of intelligence. And this is how I can make the most of it. And life in these moments may include filling a backlog of issues around abandonment, betrayal, and rejection. That's fine. Any energies which is not of me, which is not belonging in the here and now, I let it all go. And making a commitment to continuing that process. to no longer run away from these places within yourself, to keep inviting those feelings in for healing. So these wounds, these cuts and bruises and gashes, stop getting infected by being pushed away in the mud all the time. Start the healing. Time to welcome them back in. Time to pour love into those places within you. Time to take all of you on board on the journey. I cannot go home leaving parts of myself behind. I choose to stop pushing away these parts of myself that I judged and hated for so long or was so scared of. And I invite them to join me again. I am all that I am, including the broken, wounded parts, including the greatness. I am all that I am. And I accept all that I am. And I can feel, and I can deal with, and I can embrace and face all that I am. Because I am that. It's only me. So this is an ongoing process. Most of us have quite a lot of it. Can't be done in one process. It's up to you to keep working with that. You have the keys, you have the ingredients to work with it. Just have to allow yourself to feel those feelings, to really bring those feelings home so that you can heal all of that and you can really let go and break the cycle. So yes, listening to music can be very helpful in tapping into some of these feelings, if that helps you. Or whatever. Movies sometimes. But not as making up story or distracting. It's really about assisting yourself to go within and tap into those feelings. And whatever it is that you feel, however deep and powerful, you stay aligned and centered in the core. You don't start identifying with those feelings like there's nothing else in the world but those feelings. You're holding space for those feelings and you are feeling the feelings at the same time. And we've all been working on this and practicing this. I have a body, yet I am not my body. I have emotions, yet I am not my emotions. I have a mind, yet I am not my mind. I have a soul, yet I am not my soul. I have a history, yet I am not my history. I have issues, yet I am not my issues. I am. So keep working with that.